Technical issues be damned. We are ready to go. Manchester United, we have still not lost a game since the United Happy Hour came on the air. Let's do it again.
We finally made it, Paulie. It is United Happy Hour. I'm hoping your internet connection is going to hold up. First thing I do need to say is thank you to a lot of our loyal listeners. They were prompt and on time tonight. They were here raring to go, Paulie. They've been in the comments and they've been wondering where we are. I'm sorry we're running a little bit late. Somebody asking here, when does the show start? You were on time, mate. We were the ones with the internet issues. I should say I can't get my words out. It's good starting. Yep, we should have started by now. Paul, Ian Smith says that you're on 1K's internet.
I don't know what it is. My computer, my internet has been working just fine all day until the moment I signed on, and I signed into this stream. I don't get it.
Like I say, thank you ever so much, guys, for sticking with us, and I hope you're still watching now. If you are, do smash a like on this video, do subscribe. I'm guessing it's probably not your favourite video as we've made you wait, but it's nice to see that you're still here. Let us know your thoughts about, like Paulie said at the top of the show there, we're still unbeaten away from home now over a year. United have, we've come through a tough game there, got it out of the way. Paulie, I'll come to you straight away on that one. 0-0. I've never seen a 0-0 cause so many different talking points. But on the whole, do you think it's a point gained or 2 points dropped?
I think it's a point gained based on how we went about it.
Yeah,
I didn't think we gave ourselves a chance. This is the thing. Grand scheme of things, in a vacuum, a point at Anfield, always amazing, always great. Anytime, you can never take that for granted. You can't take a clean sheet at Anfield for granted. That's always, if you told me at the beginning of the season we would get a point at Anfield, I'd sign up for that right now. Hell, I signed up for it. I signed up for it last week when I said I'd take a draw at Anfield and a draw at Craven Cottage if it meant knocking Liverpool out of the cup next week.
Yeah.
I just didn't. It's disappointing because I didn't think we gave ourselves a chance to win the way we went about things. And the concern is that we keep going about things in these games. We played the same way we played against Chelsea. We played the same way we played against Manchester City. We played the same way that we played against Manchester City in the League Cup. And we played the same way now against Liverpool. And it's just a game where, you'll come out here and you'll get at me in the comments and you'll say, we had the best chances. We did. We had the two best chances of the match. But Thiago had a great chance. Firmino had a great chance. If Firmino just passes the ball to Andy Robertson, which somehow is a screen grab that I forgot to put in the folder, so I can't pull it up right now, that's a great chance. So, you can't expect to win if you're, against Chelsea, we created two chances in the final 10 minutes, and that was it. Against City, we created maybe a chance in the first half and a chance or two right outside of halftime. You can't expect to win if you're only creating two chances. If you say, hey, we're going to create two chances, then if we hit one, we'll win 1-0. You're just not going to win a lot of games that way.
No, well, you're getting into the realms of playing a game like Tottenham play, aren't you? In a way where you get that early goal, and then you just you're looking to sit back and hoping that if you get another chance, you can score it. I'm like you, Paulie. I would have taken a point all day long in that game. But then when you look at how the game went and how it was going, and even before the game kicked off with the lineup, I think United were still wondering whether Joe Matip had come into the defence, so they weren't sure how to play that right up until the teams were announced. I just think, it did feel in the end, and it might be a bit greedy, but it did feel like it was a bit of an opportunity missed. But, like you said there, Paul, you touched on it, this has happened a few times now this season. Do you think it's more to do with the manager and his psyche, or do you think he still doesn't feel, even though the squad's improved this year, personnel-wise, does he still feel like he has enough to change it? Because I'll be honest with you, I can understand him being a bit nervous playing against Chelsea. That Chelsea game, they were free scoring when they came into that game, but they were conceding goals as well at that point in the season. But they were scoring a lot of goals, so I do understand him being a little bit nervous there. Manchester City and Manchester City, they can rip you apart at any time. We saw that in the League Cup semi-final last year. Arsenal was the only one I didn't really get because they're never going to score loads of goals in a game against you, really. So that was the only one I didn't understand. But I can understand him being nervous about Liverpool because even though they had a few injuries, you know, they're still capable of scoring goals against you. So do you think it's a mindset from the manager, or do you think that he's still looking at that bench in his squad and thinking, how can I be more attacking at the moment with no real right wing option and no sort of good ball playing central midfielders apart from Bruno and Pogba?
Well, you asked a good question, and then when I stole my answer.
All right.
No, if we would have done this show yesterday, I would have been prepared to come on and kill Ollie for this, and just, you know, it's not. He's just not bold enough, and he's just being too scared. And then I thought about it, and I thought about, you know, there's two sides to every coin, and there's two sides to, you know, how we were sitting here at some points in the season and saying, well, you can't say this because you can't say X because Y happened, and now you can't. It's the other side. It's almost like, hey. When we were sitting here talking about in September and October when they were struggling, and we said, well, Ollie went to his bosses and said, I did step one. And they said, what do you need for step two? And he gave them a list, and, you know, included in that is a right winger and some other things. And they didn't get that for him.
Yeah.
So now when things are going well and the pendulum swings the other way, and I want you to take a further step forward, you have to then step back and remember, well, he may not be able to do that because he didn't get that right winger and he didn't get that midfielder that he needs that would enable him to do this. So it's important to remember that this is year 2 of a rebuild. They're not supposed to be in this situation. They're not supposed to be, you know, the same way that it was due to other teams struggling, that 66 points was good enough for third place last year. It is the same happenstance that United playing at a 78-point pace are top of the league. And as a fan, you know, all of us, look, the numbers, and you know, I'll tell you, my thoughts on Liverpool have changed a bit from this game, but I still think this is Manchester City's league to lose. The numbers will very much tell you it's Manchester City's league to lose. The numbers will have us at best at third favorites. But as a fan, you know, I want to believe in all that. Hey, you never know. You never know what could happen. And hey, let's just win against the small teams and you know, let City and Liverpool drop points. And who knows? But you don't want you know, you don't want your manager getting caught up in that. You want your manager to say, look, these are the cards I'm dealt. So this is how I have to play. And we're going to play like this the entire season, whether that means that's elevating us from 6th place to 4th place, or if he's just like, this is, you know, if I all of a sudden find myself in 1st place and I try to do something differently now because of that, something that we're not ready to do, then that might not work. And maybe that blows up in our face. And what I really thought about last night or this morning was how much Ollie speaks and how his actions, you know, are always louder than his words. He goes into his press conferences, you know, Alexis is going to come back and prove you all wrong. You know, he talks up players and he sells them the next day. He's been talking up, oh, Phil Jones is coming back. Like, no, he's not. Jesse Lingard's raring to go in the squad and he's been training great. Yeah, we only see him in the cup against teams that are from a different division. And I thought about Rex Ryan when he was the coach of the New York Jets. And he is the same way. He was a very brash, outspoken guy, but he was the same way as Ollie in that he would never, ever, ever throw his players under the bus. He would always defend him. And one year the Jets signed Tim Tebow because it was a marketing gimmick and he was terrible. But their starting quarterback, Mark Sanchez, was also pretty bad. And week after week, the Jets would lose. And the media would go, well, why aren't you playing Tim Tebow? And they would keep asking. And Rex would keep saying, we think that Mark Sanchez gives us the best chance to win. And that, and they're well, didn't you see him? He sucked. And it was like, he did suck. They also see Tebow in practice. And clearly in practice, Tebow isn't much better. And where this comes to Ollie is that maybe Ollie probably knows this team, the way I set him up, it's not going to win, but that might be my best shot. If I go Pogba Matic in this game, or if I go Pogba, Fred, like the Liverpool might win, and might win big. Maybe it's an overreaction to the Tottenham game, or maybe there's more in it that we're not seeing. Like last year, everybody, when Pereira and Lingard stunk, everybody wanted Angel Gomez to play, even though he wasn't doing anything either. So there could just be a lot that we're not seeing. And maybe he just knows we're not ready. We're not good enough. If you move,
I do feel like the media and the fans sometimes, Paulie, wanted us to play players that we haven't got, if you know what I mean. Right. They wanted us to play. I think they feel like Matic is something different to what he is. They feel like Pogba's something different to what he is. And McTominay and Fred as well. They can't give us what they want. We did put this comment up earlier, Paulie, but I want to read it out because I think it's important to say this as well. It's evolution, Paulie. We've progressed in the last 12 months. And I do want to say that, Paulie. I do think, we can come on here and criticise for what happened on Sunday. And actually, the game last year was quite tight on a whole, to be honest. Because
the game last year was better than people remember it.
Yeah.
But I will say this. It felt like Liverpool scored that early goal and just toned everything down. And had United scored, had United equalized at any point before like the 85th minute, Liverpool would have just turned it back on and scored another. Maybe if they score in the 85th minute, there's not enough time for them to do that. But it always felt like Liverpool were just letting
they were in control of the situation more, I think, weren't they? They were dictating the terms and the tempo. But again, the last point of that comment is echoed by a lot in the comments that I've already put on the screen, Paulie, that until we sort the CDM position out, the centre-back position, this is the way we're going to expect United to play them. But we've said this all season, haven't we?
And I put that up as well because that comment is 100% right. And like that's really what yesterday I was ready to blast them, and then today that's what I thought about. Like this game really showed that we're lacking that defensive midfielder, because if we have to go to Fred and McTominay, we all know they are two players to do the work of one, which means you're essentially playing a little shorthanded. But if we don't have the player that enables.
Oh, it was all going so well with the internet there, Paulie. I think we've lost you again. Yeah, I think we've lost you. Yeah, I think we have. Let's carry on until Paulie rejoins us. Some of your comments here from NZZ. Good to see you again today, mate. You're always in here. Great to have you with us. Love Ollie's presses, though. What a difference it makes when the manager backs his players every single occasion. So much of a difference versus the toxicity and constant negativity with Jose. Yeah, we've said this before. I think we all agree that we're enjoying the way this team plays more than we did under previous managers, i.e. Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal. I think, the setup, you can argue it's pragmatic, but it's nowhere near as pragmatic as when we went to Anfield a few years ago and drew 0-0. Under Jose, we played 6'6" at the back, I think it was. It was crazy. Until Ollie can consistently play the way he wants, i.e. restart, I think he will continue with the not lose mentality in bigger games. I won't fully judge until he gets personnel. I absolutely agree with you guys. Paulie, are you with us?
I'm with you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you, but that's fine.
Yeah, I turned the video off. Hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, we're just looking at this here, Paulie, because I think this was a good comment that came in. I've actually just gone now. It's difficult to judge Ollie until he has a squad and a team that is actually capable of winning these games. And I think that's a really good point, because I think what we saw this weekend was how the poor recruitment really come to the fore, because you can't help but feel that a more natural right winger in that game and at least one more progressive midfielder in the middle of the park would have made all the difference.
Yeah, no, I this is basically what I wrote about this week. Is like I was saying before, when you need to go to this midfield pivot, because that's what you're gonna, it goes back to what I was saying at the start. Is Ollie's not getting carried away with where we are. I am a fan, and I'm getting carried away with, hey, we're at the top of the table, and if we want to push on and really say, hey, we're in this title race, then we need to go and win the game and prove. And this was a great chance to prove that. Ollie is sitting there being like, hey, we're playing at a 78-point pace. We're playing better since the Tottenham game. It's a much better pace, but we're not there yet. And you look in all the comments, this one from Hella, our right side is an issue every match. Ollie has to try to get that side working with what he's got at his disposal. It's 100% right. Is you need in order for, we'll talk about Bruno Fernandes and why he disappears in this game, but a lot of that comes from we can't get him the ball in good positions. You need Bruno Fernandes. You need a midfielder who can get him the ball, and that's Paul Pogba. But if you move Pogba inside, now you need someone on the right. We know, Cavani, Rashford, Martial, it's not really a front three, and that you're going to have defensive issues if you do that.
Yeah.
And they don't really play to Cavani's strengths. And who do you bring on then to change the game? Mason Greenwood isn't the answer. So if you're going to move Pogba inside in this specific game, the only real option is probably Daniel James, because he'll come in and get back and do that defensive work that you need. But that's not the best option going forward. So yeah, every single game, like we've been saying all year, is Ollie has to look at it and be like, how do I hide the lack of a right wing? And it always means essentially playing somebody out of position.
What did you make of him starting Pogba on the right, Paulie? Because I've got to admit, of all the selections he could have made, that one I did find a little bit left field, pardon the pun. It was interesting that he would go with him on the right when he's not really done that before, to be honest. So what did you make of that?
I thought it was interesting. He always does like a little tactical tweak for these big games to, according to Laurie Whitwell of The Athletic, it's like to try to keep you guessing, even though you basically know what you're going to get. And this was a tactical decision. We're going to put Pogba on the right because he can spray those passes in behind to Rashford. If he's playing on the left, he's got to put it on his right foot. It takes more time. Yeah, we're going to put Rashford up top because Rashford runs in behind much more than Martial does. Yeah. So that was the tactical decision, and you saw it. You saw it working a lot. Rashford couldn't stay on side, which was a problem, but not really, because it's not like Rashford ever ran and put the ball in the back of the net and then flag went up and it was like VAR confirmed it was offside. He had one that he ran onto, and I think it was Henderson was back there, and they worked it to the top of the box. They tried to get it to Pogba or Bruno at the top, and Liverpool just got a foot on it. So United didn't even get a shot off before the flag went up. And, every other time was Liverpool were very ready to defend it. They play a high line. So they're very, what's the exposure to a high line is balls over the top. So they work on defending that because that's where their exposure is. And Alisson was out there to sweep up a lot. Rashford was offside a lot, but it's not like that ever really hurt United. Most of the time, he didn't even get possession of the ball. Yeah.
No, I agree. Right, let's move on, Paulie, as we always do. Let's take a look what's on social media today, this week. Actually, I'm just wondering whether Paulie's internet connection might be trending at the moment. I said, hey, what's going on? Now, I've just had a quick look. There's nothing trending about your internet connection, Paulie, but what people are talking about...
Start tweeting it then, guys.
Yeah, let's get him famous. Let's have a look at what is trending, Paulie, and what has been talked about. And it's surrounding Jurgen Klopp right now. Once again, after the game, he's talking about United. This is not the first time he's sort of complained, criticised about United being too defensively. He has said the worst thing you can face in football is playing against a side with world-class players, and they all defend with all that they have. Paulie, do you think here the Liverpool manager has a point? Are we First of all, are we a team full of world-class players is what I would ask, first of all. And secondly, you know, do you think they were too defensive on the whole for the game on Sunday?
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp says this, and United fans start crying their eyes out and being like, why, he wanted us to place everybody up top so that he can go out and beat us. And there's an element of, we're at Anfield. The onus is on Liverpool to come out and win the game. And if Ollie wants to set up defensively to hit them on the counter and stuff, that's fine. Again, you're the home team. You're the champions. So that is your job. But what Klopp isn't wrong in any way, shape, or form. United played what ended up being, you might say on paper it was a 4-2-3-1. It quickly turned into a 4-4-2. And it turned into a 4-4-2 with Pogba on the right and Martial on the left. And Martial was the deepest of your players. When you look at where the average positions were, that midfield four, Martial's the deepest one. You can't really see it because this is very small, but out of your midfield four, Martial basically that's not where you want Anthony Martial. And but the overall thing is you look at where where United put their biggest talent here. And look at that. That's all on the outside and the top of the pitch. And you have your fullback supporting it, but there's really no pathway to get from the defense to the attack. It's Pogba, Martial are on the outside. Bruno and Rashford are all the way up front. It's clunky. It's hard to get it to them. It's easy to defend. On the other side of things, like you look at where like Liverpool put their talent, you've got you've got your fullback supporting, but you've got your ball mover right in the middle of that pitch. And you've got your forwards playing narrow in front. So he can get the ball up to them. And he's got support from his fullbacks who can also get the ball up to them. So, there's an element of Jurgen Klopp is deflecting off the fact that they haven't scored. Mane, Firmino, Salah haven't scored in 3 games. He's deflecting off the fact that, Liverpool were poor. But he's not wrong in the sense that, it is a shame when, you've got world-class players and you're just putting them on the outside. And he's right. It is, as a neutral, it's frustrating to watch that. You basically, when it comes to Paul Pogba in this game, you basically hired the best driver for a race, but you said you're going to be in an SUV instead of a sports car. And, you want your world-class players to play in their positions and where when you do this 4-4-2 thing, you're taking Bruno out of his best position as well. You look at it. When you end up in this 4-4-2, Bruno's at his best as a 10, dropping in between the lines, doing that.
Yeah.
In the 4-4-2, he can't. Jordan Henderson's right on him. Or if he does drop between the lines, Thiago's right there. On the flip side, you're allowing Thiago to play in between the lines. Like this is classic Mourinho versus, 2003 Jose Mourinho, Claude Makelele basically being like, if you're going to all play a 4-4-2, I'm going to have a 4-3-3 with Makelele between the lines and you're not going to have an answer for it. And at the start of the game, United didn't have an answer for Thiago. So
the thing I found strange about it though, Paulie, as well, was that the move to put Pogba on the right was then sort of complicated even further by moving Rashford centrally. Now, we've talked before, and we can debate until the cows come home about Rashford being a centre forward or a striker. But I have no issue with Pogba going over to the right if that means that Rashford's going to the left. But to move Rashford centrally and to play Martial left, which he hasn't played much this season, I found a bit strange, to be honest. But I mean, it's one thing making one change, but there was almost two.
Well, I said before the reason was because Rashford will run in behind a lot more than Martial will. And
but you want him running behind for me, Paulie, in that sort of in their right back channel, like the Trent Alexander-Arnold and the right side, the centre back through that channel, which he can do from the left, not necessarily through the middle.
Yeah, I see that. It's more just, I mean, remember there was a situation in the first half early on where United were in transition. Pogba got it on the right wing and he tried to play it first time all the way across to Rashford and he just missed the pass. It's a more difficult pass. I think you're trying to get Rashford closer to Pogba and it's an easier pass to go cross field on his right foot when he's on the right wing than to put it on his left. One last thing, this comment from Hella, the point is Klopp is whining about other teams not playing the way he wants. Look, I at the end of the day, I think we get this after every single United match at Anfield because 3 years ago, Jose Mourinho went to Anfield, closed up shop, got a 0-0 draw, and then at the end of the game, he said, well, the other team never opened up the door for my team to win. So it goes both ways. It's just manager. I don't understand why everybody's so mad about it. And Klopp's right, but he's also just saying it to deflect away from that doesn't mean Ali was wrong for doing it. He's just trying to deflect away from his own team.
We saw it in the game at Old Trafford as well, Paulie, when he made that famous comment. I think after that we had 3 injuries in the first half of the game, if you remember. We had to make 3 changes before half time. And I remember after that game he said something about we come here expecting beef and we got fish or something, like the restaurant analogy sort of thing. You come expecting one thing and you got another, but
which was absolute BS because he played conservatively too.
Yeah, and it's not for teams to play how Klopp wants us to play, is it? At the end of the day, teams have to play how they're comfortable. Let's move on anyway, Paulie, to the next thing that's been on social media, and Sky very, very cleverly booked Carragher and Neville from Monday Night Football. They were always going to last night to sort of follow up from the week's escapades and Sunday and the whole banter between Neville and Carragher. And this really did spark off, to be fair, during Monday Night Football, and it created quite a debate. Gary Neville's, suggesting that he's not defending United for defending's sake because, let's be honest, over 3 years over the last 7 years, Gary Neville's been one of the biggest critics of Manchester United live on telly or on any platform. To be fair, he's not hiding away from criticising the team like a lot of the ex-players haven't, Paulie. The crux of the debate was obviously around Carragher suggesting that Manchester United should have done more in the game, a little bit like you said, they should have been more positive. He sort of dismissed this idea from Gary Neville that Man United are trying to get back to being a champion team. They should already be a champion team because they're Manchester United. Why are they struggling with this identity crisis when they go to places like Liverpool? What did you make of this? I'm taking it you've seen the debate, Paulie, and you've read the comments. What do you make of all this, and where do you stand on it?
I have seen the debate. I went back and I've watched it a couple of times this morning too, and I've seen the comments. And what I don't get is that the comments are so one or the other. This is a 7-minute debate, and you see it right here. In our comments from Amsterdam, Carragher's statement was a joke. Jamie Carragher said some things that were not good, that were frankly, they were silly. Gary Neville said some things that, it just, to me, like all the United fans immediately just backed Gary Neville. And it was almost blindly. How can Carragher say this? I saw a lot of people saying, Carragher was mad that United didn't, go all out to try and win this game. No, Jamie Carragher never once said, United should have, had all their strikers on the pitch and really pushed forward and let Liverpool go and pick them off because they were playing so defensive. He never said that. There is a lot of shades of gray in this. Gary Neville said some stuff that was accurate and good, but Jamie Carragher made a lot of good points. And there's a lot that I agree with that he said. And it starts with when the debate started, Gary Neville whipped out that golf analogy, and I'll read it for you here. Gary Neville said, it was almost like that Manchester United had prepared for the toughest hole on the course, the long par 4, the one that you'll take a par on all day. And as they played it, they walked back to the next tee and they've looked back and thought, if I just gone for that second shot and been a bit bolder into the green, I might have gotten a birdie and maybe I should have done it. but that's only after the hole is finished. And then the presenter, David Jones, came on and said, but you get the team news. You're standing on the tee. You get the team news, and it's a temporary green. It's moved 50 yards closer. And Neville responded, and said, this team doesn't have the ability, the mentality yet to, 7 weeks ago, the manager was in peril and on the fritz, and they can't just change willy-nilly. And I don't believe that. David Jones makes a great point, because it's one thing if you're on if you're standing on the tee and you get the team news and all of a sudden it's moved 50 yards closer. Yeah. But it wasn't, because we knew Joel Matip might not be playing. We knew Gomez and Van Dijk were out. We knew they weren't going to go to those kids at center back. So you knew that they were going to have one, probably two midfielders playing in defense. It was as if you're ready to play this golf tournament, and the tournament told you, well, when you get to the 7th hole, we might move it 50 yards. We haven't made up our mind yet. So it's in your, if you did any preparation, you would have known that. You would have known this is a possibility. So United just didn't come out like that at all. And it's one thing, it's one thing to come out and play the way they did, which is fine, to come out and start that way. But remember, how many games have they played like this? Let's list them off. There's PSG, there's Chelsea, there's City, and
Arsenal.
And Arsenal, and there was this one. Let's think about it. Chelsea, they brought on Paul Pogba after 60 minutes, and we said, all right, keep it tight, 60 minutes, then bring on your big guns. They brought on Paul Pogba, they brought on Edinson Cavani, but they took off Juan Mata and they took off Daniel James. Like for like changes. They still had McTominay and Fred in midfield. Then with 10 minutes to go, they took off McTominay and they brought on Greenwood. And then they started, putting Chelsea under siege. Against City, the only change they made, Martial for Greenwood, like for like. Against Arsenal, it was all like for like changes. All those games ended 0-0. Against PSG, they took off Alex Telles. They went from that back 5 or that back 3 to now playing back 4, and we're bringing on an extra attacker, and they won that game. That extra attacker had the assist on the winning goal. In this game again, it was all like for like. It was Cavani replaced Martial. What were the other changes they made? Greenwood came on and replaced Bruno Fernandes. Being bolder is take off a Fred or McTominay with 10 minutes to go and move Pogba there and trust them to do it. At the end of the day, Ollie just continues to be this pragmatic manager, and he always has been, frankly. Who is just it's afraid of losing and rather not lose. And I've said this a lot when people said last year, like, why doesn't he bring on Greenwood earlier? And, when United are down 1-0, he'll bring Greenwood on in the 60th minute, because to hell with defending. We need a goal. But when it's 1-1, he waits until the 81st minute to bring on Greenwood, because you don't want to concede a goal on the other end. So there was none of that boldness. But then you talk about... Go on.
No, I'll just... Look, what about the point that Gary Neville makes so poorly, that, let's be fair, Anfield is never somewhere that United have gone and dominated, even at the peak of their powers. I mean, he also suggested that as well. I mean, I think that's a fair point, because it does seem to be a ground where we go and we have an issue. I mean, usually you could say the fans there make a huge difference. I think it is one of those grounds in the country where the fans do make a huge difference, especially in a derby like that. But there is a good argument there to say that United very rarely do go there and play well. And how do you put your finger on that? Because in recent memory, I think we said on the last show, Paul, the only one I can remember is the Louis van Gaal game when Mata scored 2 goals. That's the only time in recent memory I can remember United going there and dominating a game. And that was only because Liverpool were down to 10 men at half time.
I'm glad you asked that, because that's exactly where I was going with my next point, because that's what Carragher talked about, the mentality. And he said, if you take off the name Liverpool from the shirts and you strip out the Anfield, United should have looked across at that team. Okay, you don't know exactly what the lineup is. You couldn't have guessed that Shaqiri was coming in. It was his third start in the last 2 years. But you look across that team and you look at your team right now and the way you're playing, and you have to look and say, we really have a shot at this. Why should we play scared of them? And that's a mentality. That's a mentality that when you talk about trying to build, we've been talking about it all year, is always trying to change the mentality. And we see it this year. Last year when we went behind, we didn't win any games. This year we're going behind every game and we keep winning. So what is Anfield? Because you touched on this. What is Anfield? It's a ground. It's a pitch. It's a little bit smaller than Old Trafford's, so it's a tight pitch. What makes Anfield Anfield? What makes it such a difficult place to play? The fans are sitting right on top of you, right on you. When you go to take a throw, and it feels like not just the person sitting in the first row can reach out and grab your arm. It feels like the person in the third row can reach out and grab your shirt. That is what makes Anfield such a terrifying place, and that's what makes it Anfield. You took that away. You don't have that. This was the perfect opportunity to say to your team, forget that it's Anfield. We can go there and we can win. And then let's say you do that. Then next year, when you go back there and there are fans, you look at them and say, we went here last year and won. There's nothing to be afraid of. We went here last year and we won. And obviously it's going to be a little bit different, but at least you have this in your thing. And Gary Neville brought up the game under Louis van Gaal. And then the reason for that was simple, because Louis van Gaal played the same way every game, no matter who we played against. He had the same tactics against Manchester City as he did against Bournemouth. And it was annoying because, some things work against some teams and others don't work against others. But in that situation, it worked because it didn't matter that the game was at Anfield. This is another game you play the same freaking way, you robots. And he won 2 games at Anfield. He is only in charge for 2 years. He beat Liverpool 4 times. So there was that. So to me, this was a big opportunity for the manager to say, hey, you want to think you're in a title race? Because remember, we talked about this against when they got out there on New Year's Day to play Aston Villa. You win this game, you go level on points with Liverpool. And right from the opening kick, they played like a team that believed they were in a title race. When we were all talking about being like, are they? Well, it's too early to say. You want your team to believe that, even if you know I'm going to have to go to McTominay and Fred for a lot of games and, be pragmatic and everything. But if you want your team, your players to believe you're in the title race, go out there and have a go at Anfield. Because if they win that game at Anfield, there's so much more belief in that squad now. And and that could take them much further. But instead, it's you talk it all up. And he had those quotes before the game where what happens, when you reach the summit of Mount Everest and Mount Kilimanjaro, if you just sit down, what happens? You freeze. You have to keep pushing on. You get your players all wound up for this. And then you go out there and you name this team and the players kind of get that, manager doesn't think we can win. We're playing to keep it tight again and maybe steal one. So to me, Carragher's right. It was a great opportunity because, Gary Neville's right too. And you're right. Anfield has never been a welcoming place for us. We have never done well there, even when we were winning titles and they were, mediocre. But Carragher is right in that strip it away because this isn't Anfield. This is just a ground that is empty. And you look beyond the crest on the shirt, you look at the players, at the 11 that both teams have available, and you should really be looking and saying, we should have a go with these guys.
Yeah, look, I think it's really interesting. I'd love to delve into this idea of why we struggle at Anfield, Paulie. I can only think, because we've been there with so many different teams now, even different managers, different philosophies. I can only think, Paulie, it must be something to do with pre-match. I don't know whether it's the dressing room. I don't know what the issue is there, but there is something that is inherently and holistically plaguing this team. It doesn't matter who the manager or who the team is, really. So, look, I think we could spend a whole show on that.
I mean,
it's not to answer now necessarily.
I'll grind this up into the simplest way for you, especially under Ferguson. Old Trafford was a big pitch, and United were a team designed to take advantage of that big pitch and tire opponents out. And even when Ronaldo was here, you could see we struggled when we went into smaller grounds and you had a tighter pitch. And so that played a major impact. And then it's Liverpool. They don't, it's a hostile ground. They don't want, it's their biggest rival. We say it all the time, we're everybody's cup final, but like whether Liverpool are good or not, this is their cup final, and to an extent it's ours too. It's the biggest game. So nobody wants to lose, and the fans are hostile, and you could feel them. Like I said, it feels like the person in the third row can grab your shirt and pull you back. So it's an intimidating ground. It's a difficult ground. It doesn't suit our style of play. And Van Gaal was not a manager who looked to run people off the pitch. He didn't use Old Trafford and the width that it provided. He didn't use that very well. And maybe that lent itself to being able to go to Anfield and getting a win.
Yeah, Paulie, I think just before we move on, because I do want to move on from this, because we've got to get to the poll and we've got a little bit of transfer story that we want to cover quickly. One thing I will say about this, Paulie, is, and I think some of the reason why United fans were maybe getting annoyed with Carragher was throughout this whole debate, it's fine to say what he said about United, but let's look at Liverpool, Paulie. We're not going to look at Liverpool because we're the United happy hour, that's fine. But it took him until the end of Monday Night Football. It was only because there was a Twitter question that came in from the viewers about it. What about Liverpool? What about their front three? What about all the deficiencies they got? And I think people felt that Carragher was weighing in on United for this long debate in order to avoid actually talking about some of the deficiencies in Liverpool. And I think that's why some fans probably didn't really want to take Carragher's point on board, and I think that's why they got annoyed with him. That's what I'm saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
I mean, what about it though? Like, it's not like Klopp said, "Oh, we're going to play the front three, but like we're going to play them out of position so that he didn't do that. It was we played our front three, and United played with a back four that at times turned into a back six. At times, look at how many men they have back here. So of course you wouldn't expect. United played so defensively that it's going to neutralize the front three. How good do you expect that front three to be if they have to go up against a back four plus two midfielders plus the wingers tracking all the way back? They're outnumbered.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And what I will say to caveat that, to back that up, Paulie, what you've just shown there is the average positions of the two United centre-backs were much deeper than the two average positions of the Liverpool two centre-backs, which tells you all about mentality, about tactics. And let's be honest, Liverpool were playing two makeshift centre-backs, two central midfielders there at centre-back. We've had a comment here from Hella that's saying that she's dreading Fulham tomorrow. We will talk about Fulham, Hella, just before the end of the show after we do the poll question, so stay with us. I think you're not the only one who's probably dreading it. It is going to be a really tough game. You're right there. Mark's saying, where's your face, Paulie? I think he's missing it. I think, to be fair,
I'm doing everyone else a favor.
Better, hasn't it?
Yeah.
For some reason, his camera's making his Wi-Fi, his internet connection go all over the place. Hella said Paulie had to choose between voice and video. Yeah, absolutely spot on. He did, but I'm grateful that you're here, Paulie. It's much better than the show we had last week or a couple of weeks ago where you kept having to dip in and out. Paulie, I just want to quickly, there is one thing else I just want to touch on social media. Raphael Honigstein seems to have been going around doing his usual, I don't know, he's been rotating around all the different fan podcasts, all the different channels, and he's been pretty consistent on all of them. There's a quote that United reporter put up after something that he said on the Sky transfer show. He suggested that no one's stopping Man United MUFC, if they went out and felt really confident to say, let's do this deal now. Let's make sure get it in now and maybe announce it at the end of January. That's inherently possible. Just want to say though, Paul, he's also said, and I think it's there actually further down in the thread, he's also said as well that he's not hearing anything right now to suggest that United will look at that deal again in the summer. So I think that was him sort of adding to that and sort of cheekily saying, well, you know, if United really want him, why don't they sort of announce it now if they're confident they can do a deal in the summer? So, look, Paulie, I know where you are on the notion of needing a right winger, and I know where you are on signing Sancho, but, I mean, it would be a fantastic fillip for United to be able to say, look, we've got this done in here now, we'll get him in the summer, it'll be something for the fans to look forward to, but I don't see United doing that. It's not something they normally do, is it?
Yeah, I mean, like, what are we doing here? We're back to just trying to get quicks and everything, throw Jadon Sancho, Manchester United into a thing. Nothing's going to happen in January. The reason for this quote is that last line in that second tweet is, I think everyone at Dortmund is under no illusion that the player wants to leave. So that's basically why there's nothing standing in Manchester United's way. If they came in and said, let's do a deal now, it would go through. But there is no doing a deal now. United they didn't have the money then, and unless Dortmund are lowering their price, they don't have the money now. No. And it's more just Dortmund have realized, Dortmund took a gamble that we're going to hold firm for this asking price, and hopefully things improve and get better. And their gamble is lost. Is now they're like, oh, we asked for too much money, and now now we have a player who we know wants to leave, but we're going to struggle to get the money for him. And now they're in this. And so, it's just but just stop. Just stop. He's not going anywhere in January. He is not agreeing to leave Dortmund and drop to the Europa League. No. If anything, if United were smart, they'd work out a fee now and do one of those, we agreed and he's going to arrive here July 1st.
I see what Raphael's doing there, Paulie. He knows he can play this card because he's seen Chelsea do a similar deal with Dortmund a couple of years ago for Christian Pulisic. Exactly. If you remember that was all agreed in January, and then he was loaned back. But football is a very different place now to what it was when Chelsea did that deal. United, as much as they would love to be able to announce a deal for Sancho either now or even in the summer, they cannot guarantee, Paulie, that in the summer that they will have the finances to do it. So they're not going to go out on a whim.
Dortmund just don't. They read the market wrong, and now they have a player that wants to leave, and they don't know how they're going to get rid of him.
Yeah, and we did say, to be fair, Paulie, we did a lot of transfer shows in the summer. Both me and you and other people. Hey there, Kieran. We said this a couple of times. To be fair, even on Red Devils Talk, that this can happen, can't it, Paulie? This was always the risk for Dortmund. If football didn't improve in terms of financially, they were set to lose out, and so it's being the case. So what we're going to do now, Paulie, is we're going to look at the poll that you put out for us this week.
Clicking the wrong one there.
The technical issue. I can't blame anyone.
Doing everything twice.
It's so good he's done it twice. Look, the poll that you put out, Paulie, I'll quickly go over it. It's at United Happy Hour. You do put one out there, usually once a week, so do look out for them, guys. Jump over there, follow that channel, follow that Twitter page as well, and do get involved in our polls every week because we will discuss them. Should Bruno Fernandes start against Fulham on Wednesday is what you asked everyone, Paulie. Interestingly, 41% have said yes, 59% have said no. So, like I always do, Paulie, nice, simple question to start off. Which way you vote on this, and what's your thoughts on this? Would you start him on Wednesday, tomorrow?
I'd vote no. He's tired. And I don't think.
Solskjaer tells us he's not tired though, Paulie.
Yeah. Breaking news. Manager says player isn't tired. And then follows up by saying, if I asked him, he'd tell me he wasn't. Okay. Look, I don't think he wasn't good against Liverpool because he was tired. He wasn't good against Liverpool because United played him all the way up top, and that's not his position. And they couldn't get the ball to him they couldn't get the ball to him in dangerous areas. You know, if you look at where he touches the ball when McTominay and Fred play, it's much deeper on the pitch. A much larger percentage of his touches come there. A much smaller percentage of his touches come in the attacking third, and that's where you want him to have the ball. So you're playing Fulham, which is, maybe not, it's a game where even if Bruno wasn't tired, this is a game where you can rotate him. This is where you want to see someone like Donny van de Beek. Give Donny van de Beek a shot. You're going to play Matic and Pogba. Hopefully, if you're smart, that's what you do. So let's go up top and play Donny van de Beek. It just ranges questions to me now of who else do you play? You should play Edinson Cavani. I believe that you got to keep playing Anthony Martial until he gets going, because Anthony Martial is playing fantastic right now. He's doing all the things that Anthony Martial does. And he's just not scoring. So you just want to get him going. There is this element. Everybody's saying, oh, he's got 5 cards.
Yeah, I'm going to say, what about this element? What about this argument, Paulie? Because look, I'm looking at it, and actually, I don't think that this has a big bearing, to be honest, because actually, the 5 yellow card rule finishes after Fulham anyway, Paulie. So even if he did play against Fulham and got a yellow, he'd miss Sheffield United. Which
there are a lot of people saying, oh, we should rest him because that way he doesn't get suspended.
Yeah.
It is, I don't want to sound hyperbolic here. It is the dumbest argument I've ever heard, because as you just said, they are playing Sheffield United next week. Yeah. So you want to rest him against the 19th place team in the league so that you have him available to play the 20th place team in the league. If anything, a suspension would be good, because then he cannot play, versus if he is on the bench against Fulham, which I think he should be, he could come on as a sub, and maybe he comes on as, I'm fine with bringing him on for 30 minutes. If you need a goal, that's fine.
Can I tell you what the ideal situation is here, Paulie? Let me just be a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
That they win without him and he gets a rest, and then you keep him on the bench for Liverpool, and then he comes off and only plays 30 minutes over the next 2 games.
Paulie, the ideal situation is here, mate, is that he comes on for the last quarter of an hour. He gets the penalty in the last minute. He scores it. He whips his t-shirt. He whips
gets the yellow card.
And everybody's happy, mate. Everyone's a winner. That's what I think. So that's where but I don't see Bruno whipping his shirt.
There's also just, so you want him. The yellow card should have nothing to do with it. You want him to rest because you need him to rest, and you want to get Donny van de Beek some minutes. You want to get him going. I would put, if United go out there and they win without Bruno, I would keep him on the bench for the FA Cup game against Liverpool. I would certainly change up my midfield. I would go Pogba and Fred in midfield against Liverpool, because I would try that out. The beautiful thing about what happened at Anfield, and how we all knew it was going to happen because we knew how this team works, is Ollie has a chance now, a week later, to say, okay, that happened. I'm going to do something different.
Yeah,
and if he, let's say he goes at Pogba and Fred and we get run over, okay, what's the depth? Ollie gets to look at us and be like, all right, Paulie, you don't know anything. You're an idiot. And I showed you why I can't play these 2 guys as a midfield. That's what happens. And it's a shame that we're out of the cup, but you get fewer matches down the road, which in this particular season where there's a logjam of games, that's not the end of the world. Or they go out there and play really well, and Ollie goes, maybe this can work. Maybe I have a new way of playing. So it's considering that a lot of people want to punt the FA Cup anyway, it's not the worst thing in the world. But having said all that, keep Bruno on the bench for Fulham. If you need him to come on for 30 minutes because you need a goal, by all means, bring him on. If you need him, then if you win, I would keep him on the bench against Liverpool too. Let Donny get a nice run out not just a game here,
Yeah.
a game there, but actually 2 games in a row. And if you keep him on the bench against Liverpool and he needs to come on for another 30 minutes there, that's fine also. Playing 30 minutes twice in a week is better than playing 0 minutes once and 90 minutes the other.
Yeah, I think this is an important comment though, Paulie, and there is this trade that the next game is the most important. Fulham will be very difficult to break down, judging by recent performance. Play Bruno and get the points. What about, Paulie, if someone said to you, look, Bruno plays tomorrow, but he doesn't play against Liverpool and then Sheffield United, would you take that?
Yeah, I mean, 2 games, it doesn't matter whether it's tomorrow or the next 2. Like, just give him 2 games in a row. Because remember when we said, I don't know if it was you and I who said it, but it was Bruno didn't play against Watford, and it was like, oh, it's great that he got a rest, but it was like, yeah, but, he's still playing a week later. He still played, 6 days, he still played Wednesday and then Tuesday. So it's just that he didn't have to play an extra game, but his legs didn't exactly, magically rest up as much because it's not like he had 2 weeks off. But to say the next game at Fulham will be very difficult to break down, they will be. So will Sheffield. So will Arsenal. So will Southampton. So every game that you go to, there's always going to be the reason to play Bruno. He's the best player on the team. So at a certain point, you just need to draw the line and say, this is when we're going to rest him. And I'm not saying you leave him out of the matchday squad. You put him on the bench. And it's just like West Ham. If you need to bring him on after 45 minutes, all right. The plan didn't go as originally planned, but at least we got 45 minutes of rest, and you hope that in the second half he goes and fixes that game for you. And then if you can leave him off against Liverpool and get the same situation, maybe you win, maybe you don't. If you have to bring him on 30 to 45 minutes, at least he's not playing the whole game. And maybe you are playing well and you can let him rest against Sheffield as well. If you manage to get him 3 games in a week and a half of rest, when he comes back, and he will come back, it's not to say that, he's being dropped. He will 100% be back in the squad. He will be way better for that. So you'll get this situation right now. If you can get Donny van de Beek a nice little run here and let him get firing, that makes you so much better. Right now, we have this situation where Pogba was on great form. Rashford was on great form. Bruno now not so much. Martial not so much. Cavani hasn't scored in the league in a month and a half or something. So you want, if Donny van de Beek settles in and, you get him 2 games and he settles in and he starts playing well, that's a great problem to have, because now it's like, who do we play? They're all knocking on the door. Right now, Donny van de Beek can't get in the squad because Pogba was playing well, Bruno was playing well, and Donny van de Beek was not.
Yeah.
My only concern is, like I said, who else do you play? Like you would think Mason Greenwood is in line for a start. I don't know if Donny van de Beek loves these one-touch little passes and like everybody to get involved. And Mason Greenwood is not that kind of player. So I don't know if Mason Greenwood and Donny van de Beek should be on the pitch at the same time. I don't know if you should go Van de Beek, Cavani, Greenwood, and Martial, because we saw that against West Ham and it was a disaster. So look, at the end of the day, if you do that and the game plays out exactly the same way, Fulham goes 1-0 up, and at halftime or 60 minutes in, Rashford and Bruno come off the bench and we win 3-1, I'll take that. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Paulie, I missed quite a large chunk of what you were saying there, because I think you've passed these internet issues on to me. I just seem to disappear there. My Wi-Fi went a bit crazy.
They're transatlantic internet issues.
Exactly, yeah. We're almost starting like a pandemic of internet issues, Paulie. Maybe it's a sign, Paulie, we should wrap up. Have you got anything to add, Paulie, before we finish up here?
Yeah, I'm going to respond to Ian. Yeah, that's the thing, that we aren't hammering teams at the moment, so we almost have no choice. It's a double-edged sword. I agree with you. We aren't hammering teams, but what's the reason for that? Part of the reason is, we're playing, again, a midfield that doesn't get the ball to our best players, and the other games where they're not playing are the games where teams are parking the bus. So we aren't hammering teams? Is it because we're tired? Is it because we're a little exhausted? At a certain point, you need to rest, because if you keep playing everybody, we saw what happened last year when we were hammering teams. We kept playing the same guys, and then they ran out of steam. This is why they're called managers, because they have to manage the minutes. They have to manage everything. And there will always be the argument to put Bruno Fernandes in the 11. You need to figure out where you don't have to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, Pauly, but I've been seeing this tired Bruno for quite a while now. Probably Wolves at home was the first time I looked at it and thought, yeah, he looks a bit tired. Although Wolves is a difficult one to judge because, you know, they know Bruno very well then. They seem to know how to do a job on him. But I do think, the signs of him being tired, he has that look about him that he had towards the end of last season, towards the end of that Project Restart. So there's no doubt he's due a rest. It's just how Ollie manages that now going forward. Guys, we will wrap up there for today. Look, thanks again for sticking with us for the delayed start, for being here and getting in your fantastic comments as always. We had some great interaction with you guys. We look forward to seeing you on. We're back again on Thursday. We will talk more then. We will digest this Fulham game. Thank you very much, Ian. Good stream, chaps. Sort the internet out, Pauly. I'm sure he will do, although I can't speak because I had a little moment there towards the end where mine wasn't working. So hopefully internet will be sorted. United will have 3 points more in the league next time we see you. But for now, thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you on Thursday for another United Happy Hour.